All right. Hello and good morning, everybody. Welcome to our weekly conference call. My name is Matt Ham. I'm the co-founder of Uprint, a faith and personal development organization based right here in Wilmington. And we have a really cool partnership engagement with the team at Red Earth to be able to help bring some encouragement, perspective, and kind of a holistic approach to how we tackle this word called excellence in our lives and certainly in our businesses. And so that's the purpose of why I sit in this chair, and I love doing it. I've been able to connect with a lot of the team here recently, especially, and I'm loving hearing more about who you guys are, where you are, more about the dynamics that are going on there. And so just continue to look forward to opening that up, and am available in any capacity as needed. Even some of you guys are starting to text message me if you've got something going on or you have a question or whatnot. So that's why I'm here in that capacity. So thank you guys for being a part of that and engaging. I know that John was down in the Huntsville area with the different projects. I'm sure that you guys have laid fresh eyes on him recently, and he continues to tell me that there's a lot of good things going on, not only at that project, but also at our projects in Pennsylvania, out in California, and then some of our contacts down in Florida as well. So there's a lot of good things going on right now. And I feel like that it is mindful for us to take a moment to pause for a second and consider, you see the screen behind me here, remove the debris. I'm going to tell a story, and then I'll get into why it's removed the debris, but I think it's really powerful for us. Back in 2018, we had Hurricane Florence that was bearing down on us here in Wilmington, North Carolina. Now, having grown up in North Carolina, hurricanes are not a new thing. You know, we kind of jut out right there into the Atlantic, and so it seems like every storm that's kind of coming is going to sweep the coast or tap Wilmington in some capacity. But the difference between a passing hurricane and a direct landfall is a dynamically different thing, because the inner core of the storm is the most intense. And so you can have the outer bands of a storm and it can be bad, but it's really that inner core where the eye of the storm passes that is the most dangerous and does the most damage. Well, back in 2018, we had a hurricane forming off the coast, Florence, and all of the projections showed a direct landfall on Wilmington, North Carolina. I mean, all the models. It wasn't like there was one where it turned out to sea. They were all coming here, and Hurricane Florence at the time was a Category 4, almost Category 5 hurricane, 150-something mile-an-hour winds. Well, I can promise you that for folks who have grown up here, when you see a storm of that capacity, you know the significance of it. And we all knew that this is nothing to play with. Now, the folks who have been transplanted here from all over to come to our lovely southeastern North Carolina beach town, they're all panicking as well. And so you've got 200,000-ish folks in the greater area, and everybody's hightailing it out of town. Well, now I, as a father to 3 kids, was trying to decide what is the best thing for our family. And I remember kind of taking it to prayer, and that's who I am, that's what I do. And I really felt a peace, whether I stayed or whether I went, that we were going to be fine. And I've just felt that staying was the best option for us. We have a brick home and some of these things. Well, a really cool thing happened, actually. We were connected with a British broadcasting film crew that was doing a documentary during the storm called Hurricane Man. And so if you were to go on Amazon right now and you looked up Hurricane Man, it's a 7-part documentary series about hurricanes. Our family is actually featured in episode 5, Hurricane Man. And the crew lived with us during the storm. Really cool British filmmaker named James Lavelle, awesome guy. He does documentaries all over the world. Very cool dude. He lived with us, and so we actually had a really cool experience during Hurricane Florence. Now, the good news was Hurricane Florence weakened as it came ashore to a Category 1 storm, which is still nothing to frown at. We had a 100 mile an hour, 110 mile an hour winds. A lot of trees were down, power was out. But what happened after the storm is the really dynamic part. Is after Hurricane Florence came through, there was an incredible amount of rain. Hurricane Florence, when it came ashore, stalled, literally moving at like 2 miles an hour. And all of the energy coming off the ocean, all the rainfall just dumped right here in southeastern North Carolina. Now, of course, southeastern North Carolina is where the rivers all go out to the sea. And so all of the rainfall inland is all coming downriver. And so the river's flooding its banks. And it was 27 or 28 inches of rainfall in a matter of 48 hours. I mean, it was crazy amounts of rain. Now, we really didn't know the storm was going to stall, and we knew that there was some potential with flooding, but we're normally the coastal flooding right on the beach is the worst. It's not really bad inland, but when you've got the river flooding inland and you've got the storm surge on the ocean, it made for a pretty messy situation. So that brings me to what I want to really tap into here is on Saturday night, the night after the storm had stalled. It's raining like crazy, and I woke up in the middle of the night and I stepped out of the back door of my home, which is 3 miles from the ocean now. And I stepped into an inch of water. Now, if you can imagine, I was a bit panicky because I knew that a couple more inches of water, and it's raining like cats and dogs now, that the water was going to be in our home. Now, when you get water in your home, that's a problem because it just is a mess. Now, being in the insurance business before that, I knew that flood insurance with water coming into the home is not something that you're required to have if you're not on the beach. We didn't have it. So I'm going, oh my gosh, this is an issue here. I've got to fix this. So I started to wade through the water, and we have a storm drain in our backyard that drains out to a greater storm drain, like a French drain that drains to a storm drain. So I looked at the French drain, and it's clean and clear. And I was like, what in the world? So I go back to the back of our property where the storm drain is. Now, it's one of those big graded storm drains. And I'm in waist deep water. And I look across there's a church actually behind us. And their retention pond was completely overflowing. Their entire parking lot was covered. And literally behind my home, the entire church parking lot, that lake had encompassed everything. And there's one storm drain that I looked down at, and it was covered in debris. You see, what happened is when the water started to rise, it started to take all of the pine straw and down trees and limbs and pine cones, and it was held up on the grate. So the water could not flow away. Now, I was worried that the storm drain was actually backed up, but it wasn't. Because when I reached down, I could feel the suction, the pressure of the water almost pulling me down. And so I began grabbing clumps of debris, tree branches. Now, y'all, it's midnight. We're under tornado warning. It is raining cats and dogs. I mean, it's a chaotic environment. But I knew that if I didn't get the debris out of this drain, that our home was potentially going to flood. And so like a madman, I'm out there pulling sticks and debris and pine cones and cutting my fingers, and I'm freaking out. There's a snake back there or something, and I'm in the dark and I'm reaching underwater. I can't see anything, but I'm just keep cleaning debris and keep cleaning debris and keep cleaning debris. And once I got the debris off the drain, it created this giant suction. I mean, it was like a true funnel of like a water funnel, like a giant toilet bowl, and that water is leaving as fast as it can. And so all of a sudden I look back and I'm seeing the water start to recede, and all of a sudden the water from the church area, because it was higher than us, is pouring over into this drain. And so like I'm a single man wrecking crew trying to get the debris off the drain so we could get the water out so the house didn't flood. Now, all of that to be said, during that time, I had a really profound picture of how similar that is to our lives. And, when it was nice outside, when the weather was great before the storm, I had no clue that the storm drain and the debris was going to be a problem. And yet, didn't take the time to make sure that there were some precautions in play for when that happened. So I had to respond in the middle of a chaotic environment to remove the debris. rather than being proactive on the front end and being mindful of what the debris was, being mindful that the drains were working, being mindful of all the different stuff. And so I think the application here for us is really powerful, because in our lives, when things are good, you don't really pay attention to the potential hazards or the debris that might exist in your life. It is in the moments of chaos when all of a sudden we start to look around and kind of have a panicky moment and start going, okay, I've got to do something here. But, me shoveling water out of my backyard was not the answer. I had to go to the source to be able to drain the water away fast enough, and that was removing the debris. So, that being said, my challenge to you guys would be, where is the debris in your life? There are a lot of potential ideas of what debris could be. Debris could be a busy schedule. We don't know how to say no, and so we fill our schedules with more things and more things and more things and more things. And so we're so busy that we actually can't be effective. Debris could be bad relationships. I'm certainly not speaking of marriages and things. However, that could be a reality. But toxic people, toxic environments, toxic things that we put ourselves into that just don't serve us well. And that is debris. It could be bad emotional habits or patterns where we let thoughts get into our mind. It could be social media. It could be, there's a number of different things. Now, right now, why I felt the need to really focus on this is because if you look in our culture today, it is very obvious that there are a lot of things that can kind of clog up our life. Right now in the news, the coronavirus is a real thing. Everybody's talking about it. Next week, next year, next month, it'll probably be something different. We have the constant stream of economy and the stock market and politics. And all of this stuff to me is just noise and debris that can block us from truly living out our best self and living out that life of impact that we were created for. So the first step in actually moving forward is pausing and being willing and able to remove the unnecessary things that are actually blocking us. And if you remove the unnecessary things, then you can begin to add in some things that are healthy or preventative or whatever. But the first step is getting the debris out. And so the challenge on today, I would actually challenge everybody to spend 5 to 10 minutes in kind of reflection or meditation, if you will, and kind of start looking for the areas in your life where there is debris and really start going, okay, where am I inconsistent with who it is that I say that I want to be? Where am I self-sabotaging my best life, my best self? Where have I allowed debris to creep in? And here's the deal. So often we don't like to deal with the debris because you kind of got to get your hands dirty, right? As I mentioned, when I was on the grate and I was pulling out the stuff, I was cutting my fingers up and it was a mess. But if I didn't do that, then the house was going to flood. And so you kind of have to go through the pain of removing the debris in order to avoid the pain of letting your house get flooded. And so I see it this way, is that we have to have difficult conversations with ourselves. We have to look at ourselves honestly in the mirror and say, where am I contributing to this? Am I a part of the debris? And these are not fun things to do, but they are essential and necessary things for us to be functioning in our highest capacity and in our fullest self. Difficult conversations are necessary. Difficult, honest, reflective things where you can start to hold yourself accountable to people that you care about, so that if you've got a habit or an addiction of some sort or some kind of deal, you have to go through the work of removing the obstacle before you can ever thrive. It is the picture that I'm having right now is of someone trying to run a marathon with a dump truck on their back. You might be the strongest person you know, and you might be able to run that marathon with the dump truck, and you look at yourself and say, look at me. I ran the marathon with a dump truck. But in the end, that's not noble because you're not living your best self. If you set down the dump truck, then you can run much more efficiently and effectively. You see, I think a lot of times we kind of pride ourselves on being able to work through the debris, and we say, well, the water's still draining, it's still happening. But the reality is it's a fraction of what it could be if we are able to get the debris removed and be able to step into that and move forward. So that being said, that was kind of the story that really brought a profound realization to me, and I hope that it was relatable to you guys as well, because the danger is the house will flood if we do not get the debris removed. So that being said, we can open the call up if you guys have any thoughts or anything you want to add. And one of the questions that I would pose is what areas do you feel like there is some debris, and really spending some time on that. So that being said, I didn't know if anybody wanted to jump on and add anything or bring any thoughts to the table. All right, everybody's quiet. That must mean there's no debris whatsoever. We don't have anything that's clogging up our drains. I know that this is not an easy topic for a lot of folks, and especially when you work in the same environment with people. And we're probably all thinking the same thing. It's like, well, my debris is the person that's in the other office, or my debris is this issue. And, I get it. I understand how that goes. But unless we are able and willing to have the conversations that are needed to be able to remove the stuff, it's very difficult for us to thrive. Same analogy, different, or same idea, different analogy would be a tree that's trying to grow, or crops that are trying to bear fruit. If there's weeds inside the field, those crops will be restricted. If you've ever walked into the woods and you've seen a tree that has a vine around it and it's actually strangling off the tree, same concept, is you cannot have things that are preventing the best self and your capacity to flow if you're being strangled off. So I guess you could say y'all are welcome for me bringing up the difficult topics, but I would say that I think that this is an essential time, because here's the deal. When you're busy, when things are good, you're going, I don't have time to remove the debris. I don't have time to look at my life right now. I'm so busy right now. I've got so many different things going on. But what I'm saying to you is, if you fail during these times to go ahead and set parameters and understand where the debris or the challenges are, all of a sudden what happens when the market slows down, or what happens when something out of your control happens that completely it incapacitates you. So while things are good, go ahead and keep the drain free of debris so that you can kind of be flowing, because you don't know what's around the corner. I said this last week, is the Corona beer company, right? Corona did not expect to be off $150 million in the first quarter because somebody named a stupid virus the coronavirus, and everybody and their brother thinks that it's somehow related to Corona beer. I mean, go figure, right? So we can't always predict what is necessarily ahead, but we can do the necessary work to make sure that we're free and clear, so that when the rains come or whatnot, that it'll flow properly as it needs to. So that's all that I have for today on a short conference call. If there's anything that you guys want to chat about that's even unrelated, feel free to pop in. Christine.
I just wanted to say thank you. Lots of food for thought there. And I tend to get really busy and think I don't have time to deal with things that might be hindering me in my daily life. So this is great. I'm really going to spend the time and work on that and make a list and work through it. So thank you.
Absolutely, thanks for adding. And like I said, I know that these things are not necessarily easy. However, they're necessary, because what I deal with on the back end every day is folks who eventually kind of give up on circumstances and come and go, "Hey, this is all crazy. This is all a mess," and then we can kind of work through it on the back end. So I'm saying on the front end, let's do the necessary work so we don't get to a place of overwhelm and that is kind of the hope of keeping those drains clear. So, friends, team, you guys have an awesome day. I hope that this has been edifying. If somebody wants to talk through this kind of more one-to-one and really assess it, I'm happy to do that. But I would challenge you just to spend a few minutes, take an assessment, look in the mirror, be honest, pause, be humble, and ask where the debris is, and then go about the work of removing it. And one thing I will say before I leave is don't feel overwhelmed. I mean, I have 5 kids, okay? I have 5 kids, 9 years old and under. We have constant sports activities. This kid's sick. We got issues going on at school. I'm starting up a business. We're starting up a nonprofit. Like, I get it. Like, busyness is real. And sometimes, like, how in the world could I possibly remove the debris from all this stuff? So I'm just going to keep going. Start with one thing. Start with one place. In my own life recently, I looked in the mirror and I go, I need to get my act together in regards to my health and my eating, because it had gotten messy. It had gotten cluttered. It had gotten debris up. And so I looked at my wife and I said, hey, I'm going to cut out sugars and sweets and I'm going to work on this, right? I'm going to start here. I can't worry about this over here, but I can fix this area, focus here. So start small, I guess is what I'm saying, and then kind of grow from there. So hope you guys have a fabulous Tuesday. As always, I'm here for you. You guys go out there, keep being awesome. See ya.
Thanks, Matt.